Hey YouTube, it's Marita and welcome to another edition of the Nurse Lounge. On this edition, we are actually going to talk about 10 things that I wish I had known before becoming a nurse educator. So I have plenty of people, or a few people, who are nurse educators who kind of watch my videos and, who are maybe going into nursing education or thinking about nursing education. So maybe this video will be helpful for you to know some things that, now that I've been in education for 15, 16 years, but actually been full-time academia for some things that I wish, now that I've had the whole conglomerate, the whole big picture of what education is really like, I wish someone had said to me, this is what you could expect when becoming a nurse educator. So if you want to see those 10 things that I wish I had known, please stay tuned. Welcome back. My name is Dr. Marita P. I'm a registered nurse, been a nurse for 17 years. OBGYN, well baby nursery is my specialty. I am a nurse educator. I also teach at HBCU and I'm doctorally prepared. As I stated in the intro, the point of this video is really for me to talk about, some of the things that I wish I had have known. I wish someone who was in education had explained, hey, this is what you got to deal with in education, just so you know. And if I can go ahead and shed that light for you all to think about going into education, then maybe it'd be helpful. Before I go through this list of 10 things, I do want to kind of talk about a little bit as to why I got into education to begin with. And then maybe, to see if it's something that I still recommend want to do. And, based on your own reasons or thoughts or whatever it happens to be. So for me, education is something that I always wanted to get into, or actually didn't know I wanted to get into it until I was invited to come and do clinicals one day, or one year, and I liked it, and I found it to be great extra money. So it was my supplemental money doing clinicals for nursing students while I worked at the hospital still, and while I was going on to get my education. And I did that. I worked in clinical, teaching clinical to nursing students, or taking students to clinical, shall I say, for those 15 years. So I had a great snippet, and I think that's a great introductory into getting into education. If you want to try it before you buy it, you want to see what it is before you get into the politics of it all, because there's politics in education just like there's politics in healthcare. And then when you blend the two together, because we're teaching students to go into healthcare, then there's a lot of politics involved in the whole situation. So with that being said, I want to kind of dive into, I loved what I was doing. I love educating students. It was great extra money that I was getting. I was not obligated to work for them, continuously, because it was adjunct, which is kind of like PRN, or part-time, shall I say. At the end of your contract, you were done, and if they wanted to renew the contract and you wanted to continue to work there, and they had a need for you, then you continue to work there. So you have a contract every single semester, typically, if there is a need. If there's not a need, then you may have to find something else. But it's great extra money as a clinical instructor. Now, I knew that I was enjoying it to the point that I really wanted to go into the academia full time. And so here we are, again, years later, but I also have years of experience behind me in terms of working at the bedside, becoming an educator. So there were snippets of things that I saw along the way that I could kind of okay, yeah, I understand how that works. But I didn't get the full picture of it until this past year of being in academia for full time. So that's kind of where these things come from, a combination of the whole 16 years. But really, my real key snippet was when I was actually working full time, or now that I'm working full time in education, I see it for what it is. All right, so now that we've had that long introduction and you know why I'm here, I love educating students. I love doing that. This is why I'm on this, have my channel here, educating and actually dispelling some of the myths about nursing and about what it is and what it's not. I'm directing to the point. And again, some of you may like that, some of you may not. That's okay either way. But let's talk about some things. And this is in no particular order. I have 10 things. I have notes here. So if I look down from time to time, that is why. And so number one, again, no particular order. I wish I had known. So the 10 things I wish I knew before becoming a nurse educator. This is what the topic is. Number one, I wish I had known that there's a lack of diversity in nursing programs and faculty, and whether that's by design or by default. Now, you may say, well, you went to nursing school. You didn't see how it is. No, in nursing school, you have to keep in mind when we're in nursing school, when you're in one program, you only see that one program. You don't see different programs. You don't see the different cohorts that come in every semester, every year. You don't see the makeup of a program if you're in the program. Now, you can go and look at those composites on the walls of the pictures of the students and then have an idea if you know, they're diverse or not. And you can go on the website and look at the faculty pictures if the website of the School of Nursing has faculty pictures, and see if the faculty are diverse or not. However, I'm speaking at that time that before I came into it, I didn't know to do that. When I was in nursing school, I didn't think to look at my faculty to see if anybody looked like me. I just went to the school that I got accepted at. And that's what many of you are probably doing or going to do. You're not going to do the research, which is normal not to do that. But I think now in hindsight, I wish I had known that students, there's a lack of representation in nursing school, and there's a lack of representation in faculty. You will not see many faculty who look like me overall. I'm not speaking of where you went to school. So if you went to school in Atlanta and your school was the HBCU and everybody's black there, then I'm not talking about you. I actually teach at HBCU currently. So yeah, everybody's black and we have 2 white faculty in the School of Nursing. So we are definitely majority there, but as a whole, faculty as a whole, minorities are not in nursing faculty. So keep that in mind. As a whole, not in a pocket or at a HBCU. You will see them at HBCU. You will see them at, you know, places like that. But I'm not speaking of that. I'm talking about the big picture. So before you come on here commenting what I say, no. We're not talking about y'all. We're talking about the rest of the United States. The rest of us who maybe went to a PWI, which is called a predominantly white institution, you will not see as many diverse student bodies and faculties there. And my question was, or my statement was that by design or by default? It's by both. So by design, they purposely keep people out, and by default, because of the design and because of the things that we do, we are not included in a lot of things because we don't meet the criteria. So it's a little bit of both. Number 2, something else I wish I had known before becoming a nurse educator is that much like in a hospital, nurse faculty are very cliquish. Very cliquish. So the same things that you go through in a hospital, the same things we went through in high school, ladies, the same things that we went through going to school in high school, is very cliquish. That is just kind of how it is. So you have this group of faculty who hang together, and you'll have the one person who's isolated because they don't think or do things the same way as the other faculty do. They will put you in they will make you feel kind of isolated like that. And that's pretty typical of faculty. You don't go there to per se make friends, but it'd be great if you met somebody that you can kind of talk to and hang with. So you will see when you go to faculty meetings who is in cahoots with who and who is not in cahoots with who. And this past year, I learned very quickly how they talked about one another. Again, just like we did in high school. It is so high schoolers. So the one thing I suggest you do is when you go to become faculty or even an adjunct somewhere, that you really just keep your mouth closed. And that you really just kind of sit back and observe, keep your mouth closed, and see who's talking about who. See who's talking about who. I recall one day we were actually at our, we were actually touring our new science building, Hill Science Building, and they were talking about somebody. I know who they were talking about at that point in time because I didn't know everybody. Well, evidently that person walked up and they got quiet, but then they became, you know, all of a sudden they're friends with this person, and they're including them in the conversation now, and laugh, he and ha and carrying on. I'm like, wait a minute, they were just talking about that person 10 minutes ago. So I was like, okay, I know who I need to stay away from. So I did not realize that people were very cliquish. Let's take a moment where I can reapply my lip gloss because I'm looking kind of dry. So give me just a moment. We're on standby. And this is Fenty, by the way. Fenty honey waffle. All right, now back to regular scheduled program. Number 3, I did not know or was aware about the generational changes. So for instance, what I mean by generational changes, meaning that when I went to nursing school was very different than how we're doing school now. We have millennials now, and millennials, we're expected to kind of keep up with what they do. So, you know, texting is a big thing. And so now we utilize text features. We utilize YouTube videos for teaching. These are things that we didn't use back when I was in nursing school. And it makes sense. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying, well, this part of it is a good thing in terms of we using texting. We're using those QRS codes, you know, where they can go look things up. We're implementing those types of things that the millennials and the those that generation of students is used to. Now, this may be problematic for your older students who come back to school because they come from a different generation, but typically they get with it and they do just fine. I was not prepared or thought, how things change. Not that I thought we taught the same thing over and over again. I knew that we had to update our material. I knew we had to do things like that, but I never really thought about the fact that when it came to the students, that the younger students, the newer students, we would adopt our ways of being more like them than different from them, if that makes sense. Now, what the negative side of that is, because they are a different generation of what I called entitled generation, they also expect more that we didn't get. So when I was in school, we were not coddled when I was in school. Like, this is the program, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to be. This is how you're going to act. Well, here today, they expect more coddling than that we typically give, and I find that to be problematic, in my opinion. I don't coddle students because nursing doesn't coddle you. So that's something that I'm kind of like, I'm not really a fan of that. So I haven't adopted that. I don't coddle, but there are some things that we do in education now that I have adopted because of the fact that, okay, I actually kind of like it. I like using YouTube videos. And I actually teach a lot from valid or ones that are resourceful, reputable YouTubers. I do actually utilize those for putting my lectures and things like that, or have them watch those videos to help teach the content, or to provide an alternative way of teaching the content. So that's that one. Number 4, I wish I had known that working as a nurse educator at a HBCU and at a PWI is totally different. Now, I worked at the PWI, predominantly white institution, for the first 15 years because that's where I went to school. So I was hired at the same school that I actually went to school at for nursing school. So for me, it was a smooth transition because I knew everything already, because I knew the faculty, because most of them taught me. Or the way our school worked was they kind of had like a family-owned business structure, shall I say, meaning that you went to school there, and once you got a little bit of education experience behind you, and yes, education, because you had to have a master's degree or at least start that program, they would hire you back to teach at the same school that you went to school at. And it's kind of how a family business is run. So when parents have a family business, they pass it down to their children and so forth, because they know how the business is ran. They know the mission, the values, the things of that business and what their family holds. Same thing with the program. So for me, it was a smooth transition, and I never really I had minority students, but we didn't have a lot. But when I went to the program, there wasn't a lot of us. So I was used to that. That is completely different than working at an HBCU, where you are the majority in terms of instructors, in terms of faculty, in terms of students, where minorities are the majority at an HBCU. So that's a whole different structure for me. And in some ways, at least the one I teach at, and I'm not trying to dog HBCUs by any means. By any means, I'm not, because I love teaching at the HBCU. But in some ways, they're a bit behind times, and that may have to do with the fact of how they get their money, their grant money. They don't get the same money that other PWIs may get, unless you're private. In terms of the public universities, HBCUs, they just at a different level. Sometimes they just function different. They just, I don't know. I just don't know. But I would have never thought there was going to be such a huge, besides the obvious in terms of race, I didn't think there was going to be a huge difference. But there is a huge difference. And again, I'm not knocking it, because I'm enjoying working at the HBCU, and I enjoy teaching ethnic minority students. And I actually enjoy teaching all students, but it is refreshing to see ethnic minorities come into the profession of nursing, and being able to be firsthand, not only a role model or somebody who looks like them, but actually someone to see where these students end up, down the road, and see them come back to school to get their master's and doctoral degrees and things like that. That's wonderful for me to see as well. Number 5. So number 5 is the amount of work that we're scheduled for versus the amount of work that we actually do. So when you first teach, we're actually, in terms of how many hours we're supposed to work per week, it's only 37.5 at my university that we're supposed to work. So 37.5, which is full time, is what we're supposed to work. Well, when it comes to those first few weeks or months of school, maybe first few weeks, maybe first month of school, it is rough, because you have meetings on top of meetings on top of meetings, and you will exceed that 37.5 hours quickly. It is not unheard of for me to have to come home for the first maybe 2 to 3 weeks and work at night and on the weekends to get everything done that I need to get done for my classes. That is not unheard of. So if you're coming into education, know that it's a salary position. You're not getting paid, at least if you're coming into the university level, where a lot of times it is a salary position. You're not getting paid by the hour. So be mindful that you're going to do more work than you're going to get paid for. But if you have to love education, if you don't love education, this ain't for you. Education is not for the weak, is what I'm learning. It is not for the weak. It's a lot to be done in a little period of time, and you have to get it done as they state. So I would say, the first couple of weeks, I probably put in easily 50 to 60 hours per week the first few weeks of school, because there's so much that has to be done to prepare for your course. Like right now it's summertime. At the time of this video, it's summertime. So, I have time once we get our workload to kind of get classes ready. Even though I'm supposed to be off, I need to go ahead and get that stuff done now, because I don't want to spend that time. I don't want to spend every night and weekend for the first month doing stuff that I need to get done. I think that people don't realize that. So it's more than just what we do is more than just coming to class and lecturing in class and grading papers and grading tests and things like that. It's so much more to it than that. We have to advise students. We have meetings that we go to all the time. We have seminars and classes that we have to go to stay abreast upon the latest of education. As an example, I'm going to a seminar in 3 weeks, a convention in 3 weeks, virtually. And they're going to be talking about the next gen, which is the new NCLEX that's coming out in 2023. So in order for me to know how to teach at that level, I need to know what's on it and what changes are going to be made on the NCLEX. So that's just an example. I'm going to a seminar to help me with that. Now, and I'm, paying to go. But again, to be an educator, you need to want to improve your education, your style, your techniques, and things like that. Okay, so number 6. So this is where we're halfway done. So now we're talking about the last 5 reasons the last 5 things I wish I had known before becoming a nurse educator. Number 6 is, I wish I'd have known that I would not get the same respect due to race and perceived age by older faculty or by other faculty and students. What do I mean by that? So because I am a minority, ethnic minority, I am African American, I am Black, and I'm a woman. Keep in mind, women are the majority in nursing. But due to race and perceived age, because for most people think I'm younger than what I am. By looking at me, especially with no makeup on, I have makeup on today, but looking at me, people think I'm in my probably late 20s, early 30s. Once I start talking, they realize I'm older. And once I start saying how old my kids are, can't be in your late 20s with a 23-year-old. Then they're like, okay, there's no way you could have been in your late 20s with a 23-year-old. So they begin to realize then, okay, she's much older than what we thought. But at the same time, the lack of respect. So it doesn't make a difference how old I am or what I look like. I have RN behind my name just like everybody else does in terms of faculty is concerned. So if I have RN behind my name, I have earned the respect of I won't say earn the respect, because sometimes respect is earned, not given. I get that. But when it comes down to the reasons why you're not respecting me, it's because of the fact of what I look like and what you think my age is. That's the problem that I have. So you will have people who are undermining you because of what you look like. You will have students who feel like either students who are older than me, or they think they're older than me, or they want to be taught by someone who does not look like me. They think I'm difficult because of the fact that I am Black, or she's going to be hard because she's Black. I've heard that before, by the way, or she's, whatever. Or how they come out and say, well, we have this attitude, or we're angry, whatever it happens to be. That is what I'm normally used to hearing. So you have to have thick skin in this role. In education, period. But if you're a minority, you have to have thick skin. And don't let you be young. Don't let you be young, because if you're young and Caucasian, it's not a problem. But if you're young and Black, it is a problem. And that's kind of what I'm saying. So it's kind of like you don't get respect either way it goes. You don't get respect from the student side. And I have a video about the racism and things like that I will tag to this video. But, and you get it from the faculty side too. So it's like you can't win for losing in that situation. Number 7. I wish I had known about the number of meetings and committees that we have to be a part of. So not only do you have to do what I just told you before, you have to grade papers, you have to teach your class, you have to prepare just different things. One thing I want to say is there's meetings that you have to go to every single month. and you are inundated with meetings and emails and things like that, and you're required to be on certain committees, that you have to do service for the university and for the School of Nursing in this situation. So the university will have you on meetings, on committees. It may be the retention committee that you're on, how to retain students in the university level. Then you also have to be on meetings for committees for your School of Nursing as well. Now, because I'm only first year, I don't have to do any, because I was first year, I'm going second year now. I didn't have to do any university committees, but I was on committees for the School of Nursing, which had meetings, which had, so I was on the grievance committee as an example. The grievance committee is a committee in which when students had issues with their grades or something happened, or maybe they didn't pass a class, they had to appeal it and go to the grievance committee. So I had to have meetings for that, in addition to my classes that I had to teach, in addition to, which I didn't mention earlier, but in addition to, I said this on live the other night, that you'll see this in the future, so it's gonna be a long time, but depending on when you see this video. But I said on live that if I assign a student to read chapters 1 through 10, I also have to read chapters 1 through 10, because I have to know what I'm teaching. So understand, as a faculty member, we have to read the same things we're telling you to read, because otherwise, how do I come and teach it? Now, once I have read it once or even twice, if I teach the same class over and over again, then I don't have to keep reading it, especially if it's the same book type of thing. So I just kind of go back and hit the highlights of what I need to read, and then I teach from there. So that's work that we have to do too. That goes into that 60 hours I was talking about, that we have to go and read the material ourselves and just kind of learn what we need to learn so we can teach the information like we need to. All right, the next thing, number 8, that the work that it takes to put the class together. So again, I kind of alluded to that already. When we have to put a class together, every time you all see your grade book, we have to enter all those things in there. When you see your syllabus, we create the syllabus. When you see your eLearn or D2L or whatever learning system that you're using, we have to put everything in there. So if you see that you have an index where you can go click on and find this, we have to create all those links. We do all of that. That work takes a lot of time. That kind of goes into that 60 hours. And you do that every single semester for every class that you teach. You have to have a grade book. You have to have drop boxes. You have to have your rubrics done and posted. You have to have all that stuff done. And that takes a lot of time. So imagine doing that time, say 3 or 4 classes. That is a lot of work. And so I don't think I knew what it takes to develop one class, let alone 3 or 4. No one actually tells you that. Number 9. This is actually a good one. I actually like the amount of academic freedom that we have. And what I mean by academic freedom is that the fact that no 2 instructors have to teach the exact same way. So if I want to start off with lecture and then do an in-class activity, then finish with lecture or whatever I want to do, I can do that. If I want to start with the in-class activity and then do something else, I can do that. However I want to teach the class, as long as it follows the guidelines and the core guidelines and the outcomes for the course, then it's fine on how I do it. And that's how it makes it really autonomous and have the academic freedom. Say, okay, I teach a certain kind of way. I always incorporate, as an example, NCLEX questions within my lecture. So you kind of learn, for one, my testing style within my lecture. And number 2, it gets you ready mentally for NCLEX, because you're learning how to answer those questions along the way. Plus, it allows me to see if you've read the chapter or not. So that's just an example. I do videos in my classes a lot. I do when I do my clinicals, I do clinicals differently than other people may do them. That's the academic freedom that I love, that we can kind of do what we want to do as long as we kind of follow the overall goal of the course and plan of the course and the outcomes of the course. And number 10. This I wish I'd have known. There is no orientation. I have not gotten an orientation no matter what job I got in terms of either adjunct and in this case full-time. There is no true orientation. It's not like how you go to the hospital and you go and you partner with a nurse and you sit there for the next 3-4 months or whatever, and they kind of guide you into the process and give you 1 or 2 patients and then work your way up. Once you get this job, they put you in the OJT, on the job training. You learn it as you go. I do have a mentor, by the way. I have a mentor, but keep in mind, my mentor has her own classes as well. So I can always ask questions, and she has shown me plenty of things, and I'm doing well. But as I have a friend of mine who she is doing academia too, but she's doing it in a different program. And like I told her, there was no orientation for her either. They just said, here's your class, here's your students, have at it. And that's kind of how it is. So that's something, a big thing. There was no orientation for me. Now, if there's something different for you, you do have orientation, then that's great. I never got one at none of the schools that I actually taught at. There was just one LPN program that I was in that they did take one day. They did take one day for the clinical instructor to take me to the clinical site and kind of show me how he does clinical. That was the one time in my whole 17 years that I've ever had someone, or 16 years in academia, someone actually show me something before me actually starting the job. Otherwise, everything I've done has been on the job training. So needless to say, there's a lot of mistakes that are made. It's trial and error. Try something that didn't work. Okay, do something different the next time. So anyway, that's kind of where I have been, with that. That was one of the big ones too, that there's no orientation. And so it's kind of intimidating when you come in and don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And then students are asking you questions, but then you have to go around and ask somebody else a question because you don't know. No one's trained you per se. There is a faculty handbook that they have and a student handbook, of course, that you can read over. But of course, it's like what, hundreds and hundreds of pages each. You don't have time to read the entire faculty handbook, nor do you have time to read the entire student handbook while you're teaching. If they give it to you in advance, that'd be great, but they don't. So anyway, hopefully this has been insightful. This is something I really wanted to put together for the ones of you all who are thinking about going into nursing education, or or just want to know in general what it's like for me, what I wish I had known. Again, these would have been helpful, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't have become a nurse educator still. It just would have been helpful to know that ahead of time, because it would have helped ease my transition into nursing education that much better. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Please thumbs this video up, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Also going on in my life and my schedule and stuff like that. So please comment below. Follow me on IG. Follow me on TikTok if you so choose. And until the next time, you all take care. Bye-bye.